All right, friends, welcome back to the Overshare Hour. How are you doing today, Kens?
I'm good. I have a drink tonight. I'm drinking gin and cranberry with a little bit of cranberry sparkling water. I was feeling tired.
Absolutely
I
amazing.
ate dinner. It's been a long day. It's been a long week, and I was feeling tired. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna have a little pick me up. How are you doing?
Yeah, guys. And I wasn't going to, but then I saw her drink. And I was like, okay, well, I'm getting a glass of wine if that is what we're doing. Because I equally feel tired. I will get into it in my overshare moment, but just exhausted today. The rest of the week should be good. We're filming this on a Monday, so it's obviously just the low day of the week.
Yeah.
And we are just both super exhausted. I think Ken's, didn't you have to nanny over the weekend, all
Yeah.
weekend?
So, yes. So I haven't had a day off yet. And I won't until this weekend. So I'm feeling it.
Well,
Yeah.
hopefully I can wake you up with
Hey,
submissions today.
let's do it. This
Okay.
is the highlight of my week.
And Ken's, are you a therapist?
No, I am not. Isn't that crazy? Wouldn't you think? Yeah,
Wouldn't
I
you think?
am. Wouldn't you think it that we are not licensed therapists and all of this advice comes from the heart, but take it with a grain of salt.
We're doing our best. All right. Okay. So, first up, hello. I wanted to first say that I really appreciate this podcast. Thank you
Aw.
guys. You both give such warm and thoughtful advice. You are awesome.
Mm.
Here's my question. How would you help someone who has been told that they are bad and must have demons affecting them by apparently very holy church people? The demons in question, essentially from what I can see, are mental health conditions like ADHD and depression, which ebb and flow but might never go away. This person was scarred by this when they were younger and still feels broken. They still believe in Christianity, though they are deconstructing some of the more toxic aspects of it.
That's so hard, and I would say that I have had somewhat of a similar experience with my own diagnosis. I think I've even talked about this on the podcast when I told my dad that I had ADHD, right?
Yes.
And I was in my 20s, okay? I was, like, in my mid-20s, and I was, like,
With
maybe
children.
actually, I think I was, like, 27 actually when I got diagnosed with ADHD. So, anyway, I told my dad, and he acted like I had just broken his heart, and he was extremely angry, and it's just this stigma, especially when you're coming from a really high control religious background, I believe, where all mental illness, even physical illness, depending on what denomination or community, church community you're from, is demonic. And so for me, resources, connecting with a therapist, and also just doing my own research and connecting to a community of people who also have ADHD or are neurodivergent. And then just the science behind the ADHD and neurodivergent brain really helped me to just see it as a difference, that there's nothing good or bad, right or wrong about that. It just is. And so I found a lot of acceptance in science-based facts about having an ADHD brain or a neurodivergent brain, and that set me free a little bit from any type of guilt or shame or religious trauma that was attached to my diagnosis. So yeah, it was a bummer, and it is a bummer when people say those things to you, but I think what's hard is that this person was told this in their formative years. I was not. I was already deconstructing in 27 when I had people who were telling me that even like ADHD is not real or looking down at me and shaming me for it. So I kind of already had a foundation, a little bit of therapy, and had already been breaking away from the church. So I can only imagine how difficult it is when you grew up having people tell you that when you're a child, because then it's your childhood trauma. Been outside of therapy when I haven't had access to it for whatever reason has been my own spiritual practices like meditation, grounding outside, journaling. I, in my deconstruction, found a spot, and I think this was also good for me and my neurodivergence. And then people don't talk about like the overstimulation and the anxiety that comes, and it's your neurodivergent brain. A lot of people just think it's people who are forgetful or like aren't ever on time, right? But there's also like a lot of overstimulation and a lot of anxiety and a lot of other mental health things that come along with having ADHD, like depression. So I found this tree in this park that was like amazing and like called to me. And it was kind of a tree, but it was honestly like a bunch of branches that had like formed together and you could walk inside of it. And so I would go in there as often as I could, and I would journal and I would meditate and I would lay in the leaves and spend as much time outside as I could with my dog. And this was during my deconstruction, during the time where I was working through all of my childhood trauma, how that related to my religious upbringing, and also kind of working through my sexuality. So my shame around my queerness, which is different, but also the same in the sense that I was told that that was demonic. I was told that that was a mental illness and that it was demonic. So I had to do a lot of my own processing as well. And a lot of that happened in nature and finding God in nature. Whatever that looks like for you, if you're still, like they said, that they're deconstructing, but still Christian, my brain opened up and really expanded a lot when I got into the physical outdoors. There's something about like touching grass and like being in creation that opened me up and healed me like so much. So healing is hard. There's not one vein for it. If you have access to therapy, I would say that coupled with your own practices for sure. But if you don't have access to therapy, then grounding, meditation, journaling outside is like what I would say helped me as I was processing through my own guilt and shame about religious related stuff. But get into a community that can validate your experiences as real. You know, don't join any more Facebook groups of old Christian ladies who are going to tell you that they want you to be a part of their prayer group. Like, join communities that validate mental health. There are Christian communities that also validate mental health. It doesn't have to be not
Totally.
Christian. There are lots of Christian communities that do. Get plugged in with those people. Find them online. Go to Facebook groups. Like, that seems to be a really good place to find very specific groups. And then you will start to realize that you are not alone, and that point of view is very specific to a specific type of person and not the whole world sees it that way.
Ooh, yeah, that's so good. I think that when you're so raised in it, it
Yeah.
does feel like the whole world. Especially if you're hearing it from everybody at church and then maybe your family friends who you also might know from church. It seems like everybody has this perspective. So I feel like the biggest thing is for me, I think the beginning of my deconstruction even started when I was still with Ted and I was living in Atlanta, when I just started to read a ton of books.
Mm,
And a lot of them, they weren't religious books. They weren't. They were self help type books. Or I was also just reading fiction about different kinds of characters. You know, they teach you that the outside world is scary. And I'm reading
mhm.
these characters who are quote unquote sinning, and I find beauty in their experiences and all of those sorts of things. And I think that really helps just broaden the idea of what being a human is, and realizing that this perspective that you have been raised in is not the entire world. Because it's so easy for it to feel like it is. And there definitely are Christian communities that are supportive of mental health. I've been to many churches. Some of them have been rough and some of them have been healthier. It really just depends on where you're going. But man, I had somebody comment, or they DM'd me last week and they told me, because I do have some younger people who listen, and I think we even have some younger people who listen to the podcast.
Mhm.
And a girl told me that she still has to go to church with her dad. So she was like, "Oh my gosh, you have to hear what my pastor said this week at my dad's church. He said that men should never feel emotions and that emotions are from Satan
Oh my
for
god.
men." Um, Except the only time that a man is allowed to feel emotions is if he's feeling sorry for somebody. That's the only time.
Like
You
compassion?
I guess, like,
Okay.
maybe you, like, weep for somebody who doesn't know God. I feel like that's kind of what it was. But then the pastor said that women, we are allowed to feel emotions, and all of those emotions are valid, except during your time of the month. Those
What?
emotions are not valid. No, I'm so serious. She wrote me and my jaw was on the floor. I was like,
Oh,
that's
oh my
crazy.
god.
And this is happening 2025, almost
And there are
2026.
people in the congregation that are like, "Guess that's true.
They're
Guess
like,
that's."
yes, pastor. So I mean, um, I understand that for people who were not raised super religious, like Bran, like I've said before, was raised Catholic and it was
Mhm.
so much healthier. His church was very healthy.
Yeah.
God bless him and his 0 religious trauma.
I
I
know.
love that for him. So when I tell him stuff like that, he's like, "There's no way." But no, there is.
Yeah.
There is. I mean, people
Yeah.
really do think that it's demonic, and um it can also be very shame-based. So I think that your friend or whoever you know who is experiencing this, yeah, it's a lot to try to combat when it's all that's been told to you is that having these emotions is wrong, or having
Mhm.
ADHD is wrong. Somehow that is demonic. Anything that's not perfect, not in,
Yeah.
oh, this reminds me of Bethel, not in the alignment with heaven. Okay.
Right.
That's
Exactly.
something that they would say. If your mind is not in the alignment with heaven, then that is a you problem because you just need to be aligned with the Holy Spirit. Yeah. So I think that maybe this person, I like what you said about going outside, reading a lot of books. For me, that is
Mhm.
what healed me the most. And if you, or if this person feels like they don't have a lot of time, I highly recommend listening to audiobooks on Libby.
Yes.
It's free. I used to get through over 100 books a year just listening to audiobooks while I cleaned, while I was in the car, while I was at work, because some of the tasks at work are kind of mindless and I was able to have my headphones in. And I think that it just gives perspective, which is so funny because oftentimes these super high control religious sectors, they don't want you to go to the outside world
Yeah.
because they do not want you to see other perspectives. So I think the best way to combat that is to see as many perspectives as humanly possible.
Yep.
Um, yeah, but man, I relate to that. I remember when I don't know if you remember this, kids. Well, I know you remember I was depressed, but I was super depressed in high school. And I
Yeah.
remember feeling like it was not valid, or that, I don't know, like my parents didn't want me to be on medication, which I get because I was young, but there was also this kind of idea of like, here, have fish oil under your tongue. That will help your
That'll make you
depression,
happy.
you know? And meanwhile, I am like dealing with the crippling depression of having been sexually abused as a child and
Mhm.
trying to, I don't know, trying to work through those things and get the proper support for that. But I'm also kind of being told that this is not necessarily from my parents, but from the church and, just the
Yeah.
general idea that this is a mindset thing. And there was somebody in my family, and God bless her. She was super sweet, very Christian, very sweet. She meant well. But I remember one time there was somebody in our family who had depression. And she said, you're a happy person. You just need to remember that you are a happy person. And this story would get told in our family as if this was like a mic drop moment. Like, you're happy. Just be happy. And
Boom.
boom. And I was like looking around thinking, is this inspirational? It didn't feel inspirational to me. But I mean, this is the type of environment that I was around where it's just like, just remember that you're happy. What are you doing? Stop doing this, you know? You know,
And
but
everyone's
like,
like, "Yes, perfect advice."
I know, and remember who you are, Simba, and it's and it came from the best place of just
Yeah.
wanting to say, like, I see this light in you. I see this
Yeah.
light in you. You are not this darkness that is kind of consuming you at this moment, but
Yeah.
also that can feel very shut downy.
Yes.
Like 100%. So yeah, I definitely get it. But I agree with Ken's getting out in nature, getting other perspectives, and just trying to find a community that validates mental health
Yep.
because there are a lot of communities out there who do.
Yeah. I think that it was making me think about what you were saying to me previously about another topic that I can't really remember what it was, but you were like, information is what helped you, like having
Yes.
information. And so I think that that's what's so important is that once you have people who have information and you talk to them or you read these books, because books was huge for me too. And just gaining that different perspective, suddenly that other perspective that all of these things are demonic starts to feel silly. And then that soothes that trauma wound because you can't even buy into the fact that that could even be real. Does that make sense? Like what I'm saying? It's like
Yeah.
once you start realizing that's kind of ridiculous that I, was told that and here are all of the very valid reasons why that's ridiculous, it feels lighter, like that weight starts to lift a
Yes.
little bit,
It's
for sure.
like in Harry well, we don't like Harry Potter, okay, or we don't like J.K. Rowling, but it reminds me
Yes.
of the ridiculous, like,
Yes,
it helps you reframe it into something that doesn't like, you don't have to validate that thought. You can
exactly.
say, "Wow, that's silly."
Yep.
That
That's
is a silly
crazy.
thing to say.
Yeah. All right, are you ready for the next one? This one says, I've been seeing this guy for a month and we text all day, every day. He's sweet, but if I take more than an hour to reply, he sends a question mark or did I say something wrong? I don't want to ghost him, but I'm already exhausted. How do you tell someone you like that you don't want to text all day without sounding cold?
Ooh.
I'm
Oh,
already
no.
exhausted.
I'm cringing. I wanna know, is he good with everything else? Because I guess if he's good with everything else, okay. I will say
Yeah.
I think this would give me the ick a little bit.
Yeah.
If it was every hour, that's a lot. The question mark it reminds me of, like maybe it's just because y'all are just dating, but with Bran and I, like, if he doesn't answer, which we barely talk throughout the day because 'cause we're just busy,
Mhm.
but if I really need to get a hold of him, and if he doesn't respond, I also send question marks, "Hello?" Or I'll, like, question my
Yes.
own text to be like,
Yes.
"Hello?"
Answer
You know?
me.
But I mean, like, that's when you're married and you need them to write you back, and I'm not doing it, like, every hour, and I
Yeah.
feel like when you're dating, that's a lot.
Mhm.
That's a lot. Okay. On a practical level, I feel like what you could say is that you are busy
Yeah.
during the day at work, which is probably true, which is probably why you're not constantly responding. And you could tell him, I'm not much of a texter. You
Mhm.
could just leave it at that and say, "But I, like, really" and if it's true that you really wanna talk to him after work, be like, "Let's chat later." Um, I don't think it's crazy for him to, like, wanna text you during the day, though, so it's hard to, like, know what the balance is, but I it's a bit much to
Yeah.
send question marks if you haven't responded. I think it's a
Yeah.
little presumptuous, is that the right word,
Mhm.
for that to feel like he should have this access to you 24/7. So, I don't know, Kenzie, how do you nicely tell someone to stop texting you? I don't know.
I don't know, but the fact that he sends question marks and also will send a text like, "Did I say something wrong?"
Oh, sorry, I totally missed that part. Yeah.
Yeah, he'll also be like, "Did I say something wrong?" So every hour getting a text message like, "Did I say something wrong?" It is giving desperate, right? Desperation. Obviously, he's into you. I mean, who wouldn't be? I'm sure you're amazing. But I would say, like, it is totally valid for you to be like, "That's a little bit much." And I know that at the beginning of relationships, we text a ton. Like, I know Luca and I texted a bunch when we first started talking because it's new. You're still like trying to get to know each other. You're excited about getting to know each other. And so there's a lot of just things to talk about. Once you're, I think, together for a long time, there's less to talk about throughout the day that you're not just going to talk about at home later because you like live together. So I think that you have every right to be like, "This is too much and I need it to slow down." And I think that the only nice way that you can say it is like what you said, Juby, is being like, "Hey, like, I love talking to you. I love hanging out with you. Please don't take my lack of communication through text during the day as how I feel. Like, I'm into this, like, I'd like to go on another date," or however you feel, honestly, but, like, maybe reassure the person, "I'm really enjoying talking to you, I'm enjoying our dates. Please don't take my lack of responding as me not being interested in going on another date with you. I just have a lot to do, and I feel like if I'm texting all the time, then I drop the ball in other areas because I feel like that's how it was for me, where it got to the point where I was like, how am I supposed to text all day and like do my life, right? So that's I think naturally because it's unsustainable, it just slowly fades out. Like people just stop texting as much. You just don't sustainably text people all day every day your whole life, right? So I think he's just really excited. He's really into you. I agree that if there are other red flags, this is leading to maybe some like deeper insecurity issues or control issues. maybe look out for those things, like pay attention to how he talks about women and relationship dynamics, or if he talks about his past relationships, how he talks about those women and those relationships, only because those are the ways that you can kind of figure out if this might be like a deeper thing. But he might just be really into you and really excited, and like it could just be that he really likes you and he's anxious to mess it up. So I don't think there's anything wrong with you setting the boundary. And I do think that just saying, like, don't take it the wrong way. It's really not that I don't like you. It's that I have to focus on my life or my things won't get done. And then I can't wait to like talk to you at this time, or like we can have a call, or I'll text you more tonight. And then just leave it at that. And then I would say another thing too, even though you didn't ask for this advice, is then like stick with your boundary. If you say, I'm going to be super busy and like I'll text you later, and then he keeps texting you, like don't respond. Let that, let, like you are, it's okay for you to require people to honor your boundaries and then see how he responds to them, because that's going to be extremely telling too. If he's like, okay, cool, let me give her space, or if he keeps pushing the envelope, I think.
Yeah, definitely. He might be clueless that he's overstepping boundaries. So, like,
Mhm.
once you have a conversation with him, he might be like, "Oh my gosh, sorry." I was also thinking it could be that he's not as busy as you. I mean,
That's what I was gonna say.
because there are people out there who have really lax jobs. Okay, I'm just thinking of something off the top of my head. Like, say he works in security and like he's in a booth
Yes.
all day. He might be like, I have all this time to talk to you. And it's not necessarily that he's demanding that you also do the same, but he may not understand that your life is not to the same level of freedom that he has. If
Yes.
you were a very busy person and say he has a job where he's like sitting at a desk and nobody cares if he's on his phone all day, okay, well, yeah, he's probably going to want to talk to you because he really likes you. He thinks you're really cool.
Yeah.
Um, and he may not realize that that is coming across as a red flag. He might be thinking, "Oh my gosh, I'm like being intentional. I'm trying to show this girl
Mhm.
that I really, really like her." So I would just try to have clear communication. I feel like Ken's and I, not to toot our own horn, but we're really good at this. Okay. No, because like when we're busy, we'll text each other and be like, "Hey, love you, busy. I will respond to this later."
Later.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like, and we talk to each other like that, like, "Love you so much. Wanted to respond so that you know that I love you, but also like I don't have time to respond to this like right this
Yeah.
second, and I'll get back to you in a couple hours." And I feel like that's really healthy to just
Mhm.
be blunt like that and to just say that, and let
Yeah.
them know.
Honestly, Luca and I do that too. Like, if
Yeah.
Luca's busy at work, because he's in construction, so he is a perfect example of someone who's not sitting around on their phone all day, and someone that I sometimes have to get a hold of for, like, whatever reason. But sometimes there will be a text message that I send, sometimes you vent or whatever, just, like, to your partner throughout the day. So, there will be times where I send that message and he'll open his phone and I know he's like, "That's long. I do not have time to respond to that right now." But he will always text me and be like, "Hey, give me 30
Yeah,
minutes," or,
yeah.
like, super slammed, "As soon as I can, I'll respond." And then I just, like, it's gone out of my mind. I just, like, leave it alone, you know? So, I think it's really important to just let him let him know where you're at, let him respond, and then see how it goes after you set the boundary.
Yeah.
'Cause you're right, it might be fine.
Yeah, I'm like, it might be fine. And then I actually wanted to jump over and say kind of what you were saying about pay attention, just because I had kind of skipped over when I first said, when I was first responding, that did I say something wrong? I would keep an eye out. It sounds like my boy has anxious attachment,
Yeah.
which totally, it's funny, like with Bran. Um, I'm just naturally this way. I don't know if other girls do this, but I'm very much like, "Do you love me? Do
Mhm.
do you love me? Do you like me?" And it's not because I think he doesn't. It's just like
Yeah.
I wanna hear it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like, he might just be genuinely concerned too, because if y'all are new and you aren't responding, he is just like seeming very anxiously attached. So maybe
Um,
have a conversation with him if you really like him to let him know, hey, really like you. You know, want you to know that I really like you, and also A, B, and C, which we already said, that you don't
yeah.
have time and stuff like that, and see if he is able to adapt to take in that information and respect. Because if he's not, if you're feeling, you already said you're exhausted. Yeah. If you're feeling a little exhausted and if he's unable to kind of harness that and take
Mhm.
in your feedback, you will continue to be exhausted, in my opinion.
And then the exhaustion could turn into resentment because you're not feeling respected and you're feeling like you're giving too much of yourself when you
Mhm.
don't have that to give, and that's not good either.
Yeah. So I would
Yeah.
just keep an eye out. It's funny. People will say like, "Is this a red flag?" We've gotten questions like that before. I'm like,
Yeah.
it's not necessarily a red flag yet. I
Mhm.
think it will become a red flag if he doesn't take your feedback and like chill out a little bit. Then that is
Definitely.
when it would be a red flag. Because for all we know, he is just golden retriever right now, and he has no
Yes.
idea that you feel this way.
Yeah, and he totally could. When you said security job, that's exactly what I was thinking. It dawned on me at the same time. I'm like, "Well, we don't know what this guy does for a living. He totally could be sitting twiddling his thumbs, like, thinking about you." You know?
Yeah.
Like, that's totally a possibility.
Hmm.
So, yeah, definitely set the boundary, see where it goes, how he responds, make your decision based off that. Not a red flag yet.
Yet.
Yeah.
So let us know if it
Yeah,
turns into one.
because we would love to know. And hopefully not. Hopefully it works out.
All right. Are you ready for the next one?
Yes.
All right, Kens. I think that we both have some experience with this next one.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Hello, beautiful people. I am hoping for advice that will help me prepare for visiting my faraway family over the holidays. This is super political, so I'll understand if you don't answer this one. Well, we're going to.
Oh,
But here we go. My in laws are lovely. They treat me like a precious addition to their family, and I know that I really lucked out. However, they are conservatives who voted for Trump 3 times. My parents and 4 adult siblings are likewise some of the kindest and most selfless people I know. They spend time volunteering, etc., but they did the same. The issue is that they are all uninformed. To give you
mm.
just one example out of many, my sweet mother expressed total surprise when I mentioned in passing the demolishing of the East Wing. How can she possibly not have heard of that? But then she told me that Trump must have had a good reason. They just believe whatever the people at church believe without question. They all think that their right wing views are automatically the most compassionate and logical stance. And my husband and I do not feel that way at all due to a full understanding of the actual impact of conservative policy. My husband isn't afraid to speak his mind when it comes up, and I love that about him, but I hate the tension that it sparks. How can I prepare myself to stay true to my beliefs, help my family see the truth without lecturing, and weather whatever conflicts may arise?
Why do I have to answer this one? Okay, really though, like, guys,
Guys,
I don't know that I have advice for this, let's be honest. I'm gonna try to give advice, but this is advice for myself as well because I'm really bad at this. I am historically and notoriously horrible at this. I am the person who sees red and, like, has fights at family gatherings. It's something I have to work on, and it's just the honest truth. Okay, when I say, like, I have fights at family gatherings, I'm not, like, actually at every Christmas, like, having full on fights with my family,
no, she's
but
being dramatic to be funny,
yes,
but
but my parents, we will get into, like, very heated discussions about politics. They're pretty much the only people I actually talk to about politics because I have had instances where I have grandparents call or other, like, more extended family members call and talk to me about politics because I used to be more politically vocal online, and I had to just set a boundary and shut it down. I had to just be like, "Listen, like, I will not have these conversations with you. Like, if you don't like what I say online, don't watch it, but, like, it's no good is going to come from this." However, really, my biggest hardship when it comes to talking about politics is with my parents. It's not like I actually am ruining everyone's Thanksgiving, because I have kind of set boundaries where with myself, and with some of my family members, where we just don't talk about it. Like, I've had some people reach out and want to talk about it, and it's felt that tension, that the writer is explaining. And for me, at least up until this point, it's just felt better to not have that conversation, because my family has their beliefs so deeply ingrained in them. It's very much seemed to me that it's like no amount of me explaining to them, the things that I know, the things that I feel, how the Trump administration is deeply affecting my community or other communities that they should be concerned about, that Christians should be concerned about. It's just not getting through. So I stopped doing that for the sake of peace. But when it comes to my parents, I really struggle, because that's where my deep family trauma is, and my, they're like the people that I want to convince the most. And their political stance really deeply saddens me and affects me in a really deep way. So it's difficult to know, because then on the other hand, I've been challenged in feeling like it is our responsibility to some extent to try to at least educate, because I do think that it's true that a lot of people just don't know what's going on. Don't really have any idea. Sometimes I say things to my parents and they're like, no way, I had no idea that that's happening, just the same way that you're explaining. But then kind of come back with the same thing where it's like, well, it's not, what you think it is. It's something different. So, I would say politics are probably, the most dividing conversation topic to have at any family gathering for most people. And so you just have to decide what's important to you. Like, you can go and you can talk to your husband and be like, listen, let's try to avoid the conversation this year and like just get through the holidays. And maybe we have those conversations in more intentional ways one-on-one with people, as opposed to trying to have these big political conversations like at dinner tables with a lot of people who see things differently from you. I feel like that can create a lot of tension sometimes, where it's you against your point of view against the point of view of a lot of your family members at one time, because people can get offended and then they kind of tend to try to protect each other, and there's a lot of division between the family. If it's important to you to have these conversations with your family members, maybe it's best to do it like privately or one-on-one, or like over dinner with your parents, or like with your cousins or sisters or whatever it is. But yeah, I would say then again, I'm kind of on the side of history too, where it's like I'm the person at the family gathering that like has the Christmas shirt. Have you seen the Christmas shirt, GB? That I just saw it. We're on TikTok, where it says Merry Christmas and it's like reindeer. It's a reindeer, but the antlers says fuck Trump. It's like Merry Christmas with a So to an extent, I'm like, yes, I want to embody that energy. Like, I want to be that person who's just like showing up to the event, like, this is me, this is my life, and like, I believe in this, and like, let's have the conversation. But then I also really deeply want peace with my family members, and I really want to be able to keep the line of communication open, so that if those conversations do have like moments that are more appropriate later on the line, maybe they have more of an open heart to hear me out, right? Because if I'm just this like dig my heels in, like angry person, they're not going to hear from me anyway. Their hearts are going to be hardened toward me. Their ears are going to be closed. So if, I show them that I love them and I care for them, and that I'm willing to make peace at these family gatherings, then when we have those moments later on one-on-one, maybe they'll be more open to hearing what I have to say, and like a little bit softer and less defensive. So it is really extremely hard to learn how to know how to talk about politics. My best route, I think I would say, is try not to have the conversation, and maybe tell your husband, like, let's save that for a different time and see if we can get through the holidays without it. if your husband's like, absolutely not, we're going to have this conversation. And I know you said you love that about him. You know, I love that about him too, right? I love a fiery person who cares deeply about what they believe in. Then, you know, how do you cope with that? How do you get through it? I mean, GB, I don't know. How do you get through it if he's like, no, I want to have these conversations. Like, we have to have them.
Deep breaths. No, I'm not really sure if he were to be adamant that he has to have these conversations, that would be rough. I really related to this submission because my husband is not fiery like at
Mm,
all. He's super, Ken's super
yeah.
happy-go-lucky, super but unafraid to speak his mind
Mm-hmm.
because he doesn't care what people think. Okay,
Right.
this man could not care less what anybody thinks about him. So he is very willing to just like say his piece. So we've had this conversation quite a bit because um him and I work together, and I don't even know if I've shared that before, but him and I work together, and at our work we have some very crazy MAGA people. And I'm not even talking about like Republicans, because to me there's a difference
Oh, yeah.
between the classic Republican and what the hell is going on right now. Like, it's just so different. And we have some older people who are super MAGA who live off of Fox News, and he has had to share a car with these people at times. And the sexist things that these men will say,
Mm,
like during the presidential race, they were like, oh, she only got where she was because she was on her knees. I mean, just the horrible sexist stuff. And he will fight with them, and
mm-hmm.
he will stand up to them and be like, hey, that's disgusting. Hey, that's
Mm,
racist, and I don't know if I'm probably wrong, okay, but there have been times where I'm like, "Oh my God, just let it be," because I'm like, "You are never going to change these super MAGA." Like, I'm like, it's fine to disagree with them, and to tell them you disagree with them. I'm not asking you to
mm-hmm.
like nod along or anything, but to some extent, is it worth debating with them? Is it worth getting into a fight with them at work about it? When that's such the culture at work? To me, it's not worth it. To him,
Yeah.
he's like, absolutely. Yeah, I'm going to speak my mind. Um, so I like totally understand this balance because Bran is so like that.
Yeah.
But he also has respected what I've said of like, no, no. He's like, no, I'm not going to get heated, but I'm going to tell them what I think.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, this share stuff I've never shared before as delicately
Ah!
as I can. Okay. Um, my father, who
Mm,
I love my father, so MAGA. Although he will say that he doesn't love Trump. He's like, no, I don't love him. I don't worship everything he does. But, and
mm-hmm.
he's definitely voted for him. He has Trump dressed as the Terminator on his desk at work. So that's fun to look at. And him and I will get into these arguments probably once every 3 months. I will go to his work, and my dad, he can talk about like two things. Okay. No, three things. He can talk about crypto.
Uh-huh.
He can talk about religion, apologetics, which man, we get into it about that too. And he can talk about politics. And he loves talking to me because out of all of his children, I am the most willing to talk to him about these things. And I've always kind of been that kid for him that he
Mm-hmm.
can just speak his mind and I will listen to it. But as the years have gone on, there's been some tension. And what's so funny is that he will say these things that really upset me. Like, I can't even say them. They really upset me, guys. And I will be in tears and he's like, "Why are you crying? Like, we're having a conversation. Why are you upset?" And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
"I'm upset because this affects me very deeply. This affects me a lot, Dad." And he's like, "We're having a conversation. Like, calm down. And and it's funny because I'll start crying and I'll be like, "I just hate fighting with you." And he's like, "Are we fighting?" Like I don't feel like we're fighting. I feel, and I know he means it. Like
Yeah.
he is unbothered because he's used to having these political conversations with other people that he works with. And he's used to disagreement. But to me, as his child,
Mm.
I feel a lot of things and it's very hard. So I remember this is when I was still with Ted. I remember I was living in Atlanta, or no, it's the trip when I went to go file for divorce.
Mhm.
So my dad and I went. That was such a beautiful trip. My dad was so wonderful during that time. So, of
Yeah.
course, we had to ruin it with a talk about politics. And during this trip, um, I get so mad at him and I'm crying and I say, Dad, how could you vote for him? He is a sexual abuser and your daughter has been sexually abused. You know what
Mm.
I've been through. You know that I've been inappropriately touched in the way that he speaks about touching other women.
Yep.
I don't know how to reconcile that my own father would vote for somebody like that. And what it's interesting. Like my dad, he'll tear up and he'll be like, I'm really sorry. I'm really sorry that that hurts you. And I know that he means it, but not
Yeah.
enough to vote
Like, let
differently or
it
feel.
change him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like he feels the empathy. And whenever we have these talks, I will give him his props. He does always hear me out. He lets me say my piece. But I will never change his mind. And that is
Yeah.
just a fact. So going back to your submission where you say, how can I help my family see the truth without lecturing? I don't know if this is right or wrong. My immediate thought was, don't. Just,
Yeah.
it's not going to happen. And maybe that's negative. I'm sure that some of our listeners would think, well, that's not true. We need to be educating the people around us. We need to be trying for good. I also I hear that.
Mhm.
Um, for me personally, my mental health gets so badly affected to where I will feel very depressed for a few days after these conversations.
Yeah.
And it takes a lot for me to rebound. And I truly believe that I will never change his mind.
Yeah.
So, for me personally, in this circumstance, I have just learned it's not the best. And whenever he brings something up, I'll say, Dad, it's probably best that we don't talk about this. And, you know, I'm not going to lie, we do still talk about it. There's been
Yeah.
so many times where I've tried to like put up a boundary and say, like, let's not talk about it. And then it just naturally steers that way. And then I get all heated and I go on a tangent and then we get into it again. And he's like, well, you're the one that brought it up. So um, it's rough. It's rough. Um, but I do think that I'm never going to change his mind. And I think it is
Yeah.
likely that you are not going to change your in laws' minds who have voted for him 3 times and also your family. And um, I think it's painful to see people close to you vote for something that feels like it stands against all of your morals, but you do say here that they are good people.
Yeah.
And I think that there is that nuance.
Mm.
There just is that there are good people who vote for him who um, drink the Kool-Aid a little bit. There are a lot of people who vote for him who don't think that he's a good person, but they think that I have to vote for him because of pro-life. I mean, I have other family members who they don't like him and they will always vote for him
Yeah.
because of that one issue. And it's hard to not get frustrated. Side tangent. Didn't I share on here once that there was a girl I was on her podcast and she came out,
Yes.
okay, and said that she was MAGA? Well, somebody sent me a new post from her. So it is the
Mm.
most offensive post. It's crazy. It was like domestic violence is so wrong, but also murdering babies is violence. And it's just as wrong as domestic violence, right? So it was this pro-life
Oh
post.
my God.
And in the comments, people were saying, well, don't you understand that abusers try to get their victims pregnant to lock them in and keep them in domestic violence relationships? Like, what would you say to somebody who was potentially raped by their partner,
Right.
or they threw away their birth control, or all of those other things that are very real that happen in domestic violence relationships? And her response was, well, two wrongs don't make a right. It was crazy, Kenzie. It's crazy. The insanity that she has been saying. And one
Oh my
person,
God.
yeah, somebody commented and was like, well, what do you think about in the case of rape? And she said,
Mhm.
well, two wrongs don't make a right. And then somebody else commented and said, well, what do you think if there was a 10-year-old who was raped by her father? What do you think? And she said, I think that abortion is wrong in all circumstances. And that, yeah, she basically said that a 10-year-old girl should give birth to her father's baby. And she even went as far to say that even if there's some genetic issues, that's no reason to not see this baby's life as valuable. So, um, there are people like that
My dad
who,
is one of them.
yeah,
I literally had, and this is why I was like, I'm notoriously going to be like yelling in the street, having an
yeah,
argument with one of my family members because no, it doesn't happen every time. And I can be with and respect my family members, even though it really does harm me. And I actually do have a hard time. This is my own stuff, but just vulnerability. I have a hard time looking at people and understanding their moral compass when they vote for Trump. Like it really is confusing to me. And it feels like, um, I don't know. It's like, it there I yes, I know that I have people, family members who have so much good in them, but then I'm like, how it there's so much, it feels like there's so many blind spots. It's just very
yeah,
confusing. I just feel confused. But with my dad specifically, I said the same thing. I've been sexually abused, and I have daughters. And so I said, what if what happened to me happened to them, but they became pregnant? Like, what do you say to that? And his response was, well, that's in God's hands at that point. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. And the same thing happened. I mean, I was brutally raped in my 20s, and this man ejaculated, and I was not on birth control because I was not having sex willingly at that point in my life. Like I just was not sleeping with people and having sex. And I thought that I was pregnant, and I had a weeping conversation in the kitchen with my dad, and I was like, what am I going to do? Like, what am I going to do? And I was thinking, when he said to me, he's like, well, there's no way that you would be able to keep this baby. And this wave of like peace and relief came over me because I was like, okay, my dad's seeing me. And I said to him flat out, I was like, so you think that I should get an abortion? And he was like, what? No, you should give the baby up for adoption. And I was like, so you're saying, I had 2 kids at the time. Like, you're saying that I should go through with this pregnancy, have to explain to my children what happened, and then give this baby up for adoption? What do you mean? Like,
yeah.
what do you mean? That's so traumatizing on so many levels. And of course,
For
this is
everyone involved.
for
Yeah.
everyone involved. And that's somehow, so anyway, unreal. There are so many people who think that. And that's why when he was like, well, that's in God's hands, I'm like, okay, so are you literally saying that, well, if they have a miscarriage, then it's not meant to be? And if they don't, then that means God wants this baby to be born and they're 10? It's
Yeah.
ridiculous. It's
No, it is
crazy.
ridiculous. And people act like, sorry, we're off on a tangent, but people act like it doesn't happen. And I
Hmm.
think I've told you this before, Kens. There was a girl who I knew in 5th grade. And when I went to 6th grade, so what are we, 12 or
Mm,
13?
hmm.
She came to Conley, our middle school. I saw her there with a guardian. I don't know if it was her mom. And she had a baby with her, and she was picking up schoolwork. And I was so confused because we're children. And
Mm.
I was told that her dad raped her and that
Oh my
she had the
God.
baby over the summer. So I mean, like, this shit happens, and I think for people to say, gosh, I've thought about this before, I've talked about it before. If imagine, and this is just trying to humanize it to myself, I guess. This really helped me like further solidify how I felt, which it absolutely should not have taken it affecting me to come this way, but it was at the beginning of my deconstruction. So I was like still really trying to figure out how I felt about this. But like, what if I had found out that I was pregnant by Ted a week after I left him and after he strangled me? Can you imagine I
Nope.
mean, the amount of like night terrors and panic attacks that I had when I left him, and I was so afraid that he was going to come and murder me. Now, factor in a baby and also factor in, I don't know, I'm not trying to be insensitive, but there was a lot of um, mental health stuff going on with
Mhm.
him as well. I can't imagine. I cannot imagine having to carry my abuser's baby. So,
No.
all of that to say, it is so hard to have these conversations with people,
Especially family.
especially family, because especially when it affects you personally, if you have been sexually abused, if you have been raped. Um, yeah, it just adds a whole other layer to it. I think one thing that has helped, and I'm trying to, this is me preaching to myself. I'm not
Yeah.
evolved and I'm not here. Okay. But Brian Rucker was on Healedish recently,
Mhm.
and I loved what he said about how his dad thinks he's going to hell. So he said, my dad has told me that he thinks I'm going to hell. And he said, here's how I handle that if your parent thinks you're going to hell. Um, is that I try to empathize with the fact that he really
Mm.
thinks that. And
Yeah.
that's a heavy burden to carry.
Mhm.
That my dad thinks that me, his 3 children, all of his grandchildren
Mm.
are going to hell. And he has to live with that heavy weight that he believes is true. And I
Yeah.
try to see his pain. Now, obviously, that doesn't directly go to politics, but what I will say is a lot of these people who vote this way, it's because they've been indoctrinated by the church. They feel like they're not allowed to vote any other way. I never voted for Trump because I was sexually abused. I never wanted to vote for him after that recording came out of him. Couldn't bring myself to do it despite the fact that I had voted Republican previously.
Mm.
Um, but I didn't go and vote Democrat. I just didn't vote that year
Yeah.
because I couldn't bring myself to vote for him. But there are so many systems that, I mean, you have to think of, I've been thinking about this a lot recently, is that religion drives a lot of politics. Obviously, we
Yeah.
all know that. But there are so many people out there who believe that they don't have a choice in who they vote for. They
Yes.
believe that they are going to go to hell. If you
Mm.
vote for anything that's other than pro-birth, you are going to hell because you would be responsible for
The death of all
murder.
these babies. Yeah.
Yeah, the death of all of these babies. And there are a lot of people who truly believe that and they have a fear of hell. And I think that a lot of this just comes down to indoctrination. So, kind of taking Brian Rucker's advice of, okay, try
Yeah.
to see it through the lens of maybe yourself 10 years ago, or see it through the lens of this is the worldview that they're hearing from everybody in their circle. Um, I think that that can help. But as far as this specific circumstance, I would talk to your husband and let him know that y'all are likely not going to change your family's mind.
Mm.
And I try to do this with my family as well, where I try to just enjoy our time together for what it is.
Yeah.
There are so many things I don't agree with the people in my life on, and we try to have a movie night and we try to be like, wow,
Mhm.
we love The Princess Bride, and,
Here's one
you,
thing we do agree on.
yeah, ain't that a great movie? And you try to connect where you can, and if that's what you want, I know that there are some people out there who it is better for their peace to either go no contact, low contact, but that doesn't sound like where you're at. It sounds like you love your family. You think that they're truly good people. I would just try to leave it at the door and get through the holidays. But
Yeah.
that's just what I would do.
Yeah, I would too. And especially in this like group setting, like we were talking about before, holiday setting, it's just not the time, probably, I don't think. But I was thinking to myself just now, what would I have responded well to when I was, in high control religion and very much conservative in my beliefs politically? What maybe would have I responded well to? I think the only thing that I could have responded to was someone asking me questions with no judgment about what I think about certain things. And I think that that would take strategy and that would take time and probably wouldn't happen over the dinner table at Christmas. But like one-on-one conversations with, maybe my more liberal family members, because I have like a few of them. I'm trying to think of people who would maybe have been able to have those conversations with me. But a good example is I have a cousin, Russell, who is actually probably I'm one of 3 liberal people in my entire family on both sides. So he is one of them, and he always has been. And my family, interestingly enough, would make fun of me for like how Christian I was, which is because they're like culturally conservative, but because like they're nominally Christian, but like morally they aren't to an extent. I don't really know how to explain that, but I was very like specific in my ways. Like when I was in college, I wasn't like partying, I wasn't drinking. I was like, there was like just a thing about me that they were like, oh, Miss Goody Two Shoes, and I was always getting made fun of. But my cousin Russell, who was very liberal, always came to my defense and was like, let her live her life. Let her be who she is. It's fine that she didn't have the college experience that you had. Let her have her college experience. And now that I'm on a different side of things and I've changed a lot over the last 10 years, we have phone conversations where I'm like, your tenderness and compassion toward me did more for me than I'd ever realized. And I didn't know it until I was different. Like I knew it made me feel safe, but I didn't know how much of an impact that you made on my life until now. And that's really powerful too, because it takes time for people to change their minds about stuff. It doesn't need to happen right away. And so that's why I think remaining compassionate toward people, even though that's very difficult when it deeply affects you personally, that's what I struggle with. And keeping that door open, maybe if there is a hope for change, might be more impactful and keep a door open for those conversations later down the line than like some big like brawl at Christmas ever could.
Yeah. No, definitely.
Yeah. Yeah. So we had a lot to say about that.
Yeah, I hope you have a good Christmas. No. I hope we all have a good Christmas.
Yes, no. Me too.
Oh
wow. Well, that was it, right?
Yeah. Do you want to jump into our overshare moment?
Let's do it. Do you have anything to overshare?
Yes, it's not huge. It's little-ish. It has been so fun. Fun and also stressful. Okay, but I have been going to coffee shops pretty much every morning. I'm starting to work from home. So what I've been wanting to do is to go to coffee shops in the morning, and then I come home and I do my work from home then. But it's been a lot of fun. I've been going with my sister to local coffee shops, and there's actually so many cute ones here in the city.
Fill me in.
Oh my gosh, they're everywhere. I'll have to send you a list. And there is actually, it's so cute. It's a coffee shop passport that we found at one of these. And I think that all of these coffee shops work together. I don't know who made the passport thing, but it has about 35 or so coffee shops here in Texas, in our city, that you can go to, and you're able to rate them and say what you ate and how many coffee beans out of 5 do you give it. Yeah. So I'm like, I would love to go to all of them on this little coffee shop passport that we bought. And we bought that last year, me and my sister. So we've just been going. I think I've been to like 4 or 5 in the last couple weeks, and it's been nice. It's been nice to find places that I like to go, and I've been working on my book. I think that's been good and stressful because it's kind of like when you have a dream and then you do the dream and you're like, what if I fail at the dream?
Yes.
It's very scary, and it feels like a huge commitment because I am somebody who has read a lot of books. I think on my Goodreads, I've read almost 600 books, and I've read a lot of memoirs. It's one of my favorite genres. And I was sitting down, starting to write this book on religious trauma and domestic violence and getting divorced over the Walt Disney World Booker. And I was trying to figure out, what is the tone? What is the tone of is my book super serious, or is it more, because I'm kind of like lighthearted and dark humor on social media. And I'm like, I have to commit to a tone right now. or else I have to rewrite the entire book later. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it just feels like high stakes, and I know it's not necessarily because I can always go back and I can edit things, but I think starting is the hardest part. Starting
Yes.
is the hardest part. So I'm working on that, and sometimes it comes out smoothly. Sometimes I feel like it's clunky to hit my word count goal, but I know that I'm never going to hit my dream of being an author if I don't just freaking do it.
Yep.
So that's been my week so far, but it's scary, honestly. It's scary. But
Yeah, I feel like I relate, like my overshare. I relate slightly because I've been feeling that just in my own way. I'm not writing a book, but I'm trying to grasp all of the different things that I want to do and make sure that I'm moving toward them in some
yeah,
way and feeling like not everything is getting touched every week. You know, it's like, oh, this week I did so good in this area, right? In terms of goals that I'm trying to reach, right?
yeah,
Dreams that I'm chasing, goals that I'm setting. And I'll end my week and be like, wow, I did so good at that. And then I'll look at the rest of my list and think, and I didn't do any of those things, like all of the other things that I need to be doing because I don't just have this one thing I need to be doing. And that I think is part of my ADHD too, is like I look at my list and then I get started on one thing and then I hyper focus on it. And it's like I do so well. And then I get the hit of the chemical that tells me like, good job, I did it.
dopamine.
Yeah. And then I look at it and I'm like, didn't do any of that. Like, didn't touch this thing, didn't touch this thing, didn't even look at that thing. Oh my God, I have this coming up and I didn't even think about it. I haven't RSVP'd to the play that I'm supposed to be in. Like, all kinds of stuff that I'm
Yeah.
like, how am I ever going to do the things that I want to do in this life if I can't figure out how to manage my time? Like, that's really where I'm at. It's like, and then I think, well, maybe I have too many things that I'm working toward, you know? And so I have to decide what I want to do or what I want to put effort into, or I have to make peace with the fact that if I'm working on 5 to 10 things, then the progress is going to be slower than if I were to work on one thing and then decide which thing, which route I want to take. Because so many of my goals and like my courses and things, I want to have them all so that I can offer them together. Like I want to offer packages, but I have to get my certifications in them. And so I really struggle with like prioritization and managing my time. I think I have a lot of grace for myself too, because I am extremely busy, you know, like my regular life is busy. I work a lot, you know, so I work a lot. I have kids, they have stuff going on. And so it's hard not to get discouraged and even like get to a place where I almost kind of reject effort in most directions because I'm like, there's no way I'm going to be able to do it anyway. So it's almost like pity, woe is me kind of emotions. But
Yeah.
I'm really trying to push through that and still take the wins where I can. And all I know is something has to change. But it feels like I've been feeling like this and known this my whole life. And that's what's so discouraging is I'm like, I've known this. I know that I do this. I have to be better. I have to be better. I have to figure it out. And then I just feel like I never can. Like I can never figure out how to do more than one thing well. And that's pretty hard. So it's
That is
like,
hard. Mhm.
yeah. Yeah. So that's where I'm at. There's no like
Yeah.
silver lining to that. That's just how I feel.
It sounds like we're in a similar place. I feel similarly. I have a app called, I don't know, I think it's called Habit, which feels like that would be hard to find on the Apple Store. Yeah. It's just called Habit, and I have a checklist on there of things that I want to do. So, okay, boring side, content creation. Okay. I'm like, I want to post on TikTok 3 times a day. I want to post for both of the podcasts. I want to post on YouTube. I want to make sure I'm posting on the Facebook. I want to write 650 words for the memoir a day. I would like to go on a 2-mile walk, and also I have a job, and
Yeah.
and I do my best to do them all every single day. And
Yeah.
it's a lot. It's a
Yes.
lot. It's tiring, and it feels like it things just slip through the cracks, and you just
Yeah.
we're doing our best.
And
It's a busy
also,
season.
not only do you have to like post, but what people probably don't hear is that you specifically, I mean, I guess I do too, but you have to create the content that you then post. It doesn't just like happen, and that takes time, and you have to put a lot of effort into it. It's not just like short clips. You like do a lot of like long form content. And so it's that. And then you also have your 2 podcasts that you don't just have to post for, you have to record them and edit them and post them. Like there's so many other aspects to it.
It is. I feel
Yeah.
like, gosh, the one that's hard is the comment reading videos. Like I love it. It's my favorite thing that I post about, but it takes a lot of time, guys, to go through all of the like I'll click on a video, there's 900 comments on the purity culture videos, and I scroll through 900 comments and I put it all on a Google Doc,
Yeah.
and I'm like, which 10 are like strong to put in a video, and I try to like have a mix of like really insane ones and then just like normal insane ones, you know. And then when I record those, I I wish you guys could, actually no, I don't wish, but you guys would love to see my drafts, my bloopers, because I read every comment about 2 to 3 times, and then I
Yeah.
go in and I pick which one I thought I said it the best, and it's so cringe because they're just cringy. It's like different inflections, but it's a nightmare to edit. It takes me forever because I have to edit down like an 8-minute something to a minute and 10 seconds, and try to do that while I walk on the treadmill, but it's hard to get the timestamp right when you're walking, you know. And
Yes.
sorry, this is like such first world problems, but this is just me venting about like my brain is busy. My brain
Yeah.
is very busy, but
I
um
know.
and
And
also try to
there's
find time to like puzzle and spend time with Bran
that is literally what I was about to say. And then just try to find time to be a human.
and take care of my new puppy. So
Yes.
she learned how to shake, which is exciting.
Oh, she's so smart.
I know, she's so smart. She's so cute.
Oh.
I love her. We just got a Roomba as well.
Yay.
I
Nice.
know. I've always
Life
wanted one.
changing.
Decided to take the plunge now that we have 3 hairy animals in this house.
Yes.
So went ahead and got that on Afterpay. So
Uh-huh.
that'll be good. But yeah, the cats just stare at it like it's a little scary and like they're really confused. But if it comes into the room where Indy is, oh my gosh, she is barking because she doesn't know what it is and she's so scared.
Oh, love bug.
I know. She acts really tough. She's very hyper and playful, but she gets scared by that. And then also, our apartment complex recently came in to check our fire detectors, our fire alarms. And ever since then, it has been so sensitive to where, like, if Bran makes toast, it goes off.
Oh,
Or if
no.
I'm making something in the air fryer, there's no smoke. All of a sudden, it's
Yeah.
going off, you know? So Indy hates that. She
No.
starts like whimpering and she goes into her kennel and she's scared.
Sweet baby.
Yeah, none of the animals like loud noises. They don't like
Oh.
loud noises. So,
Yeah, I get that.
well, I overshared for a lifetime. So,
Yeah, we were like, oh, we don't have a lot to overshare, and then we chatted.
yeah.
Yeah,
See,
I love
this
it.
is what it's just like when we actually just talk.
I know. Well,
What
we
is going
love
on
you
this week?
guys. We love you guys so
Yes.
much. Thank you so much for being here. We hit 1,000 followers on Instagram.
I didn't see
Yay!
that.
We
Well,
did.
I knew we were in the upper 990, so that's
Yes, so we
exciting.
hit 1,000 followers on Instagram. So thank you guys. Love you guys. That's so fun for us. And please go leave us a review if you like the show.
Yes, because we talked about MAGA, so do us a solid and go
Yeah.
leave us a good review.
Yeah,
just in
because
case.
you never know. You never know. Yeah, and also Patreon. You want to tell them about Patreon, Jimmy?
Yes, so I love our Patreon. We share Reddit stories on there, and it's so fun. So we get like the really off the wall stories. If you guys ever I'm obsessed with Reddit. So if you guys are ever on Reddit and you see a crazy story, it could be, am I the asshole, or relationship advice, anything like that, you can go ahead and send it to us and we can do it on Patreon and give you guys our takes, because we didn't really want to do advice on the Patreon. We didn't want that to necessarily be paid, but this is the best way to just have some tea and some opinions and some overshares over there. So the stories are totally crazy. So we do 3 of those a month on Patreon for $5.
It's so fun. We love it. Yeah. All right. Well, we love you guys, and we can't wait to see you next week on the next episode of the Overshare Hour.
Bye.
Bye.